Chapter 1. This story starts as my parents were having sex on the couch. They were not my parents then, but they would soon be.
You put on a condom?
My mother slurred. What?
Did you put on a condom?
No.
Just do it.
Mom said, staring at Dad from the corner of her eye.
I'll fucking stab you if you make me pregnant.
The guy that would soon be my father sighed and slid down from the couch. Always this nagging about condoms. And yet, it was completely unnecessary. And didn't feel nearly as nice. There was nothing sexier than coming inside a woman. He tried to explain this to my mom, but she did not get it. It was almost like she was stupid or something. He grabbed his pants and pulled out the wallet, tore up the package, and was about to press out the condom, but then it was like something came over him. Why did she always get to decide? What about him? He had this friend. His girlfriend let him come inside her all the time, and nothing was going to happen. It was just this one time. So he threw the package on the floor.
Thank you,
my mom said, turning around so that she could kiss my dad when he leaned down over her. I don't need to explain the details of what happened after that. We are all adults here. But if there are any children out there, they were going to the disco and danced for 5 minutes, and then my mom was like, "Really? Is that it?" And then my dad was like, No, wait a minute, and then I can dance again. And then my mom was like, "Okay, I will dance a little bit by myself while I'm waiting." They went to Paris. They did their tax return and began to scream of happiness and banged on the walls, screaming, oh, when they realized they didn't have to pay any taxes because they were both working under the table. When they were finished, they lay on the couch and watched movies. Dad was holding Mom in his arms so she wouldn't fall down because the couch was very small. Ugh, my father said. Don't you just hate it when directors throw in a sex scene right at the beginning of a movie just because they think it will make people more interested?
Yeah, I hate that too. It's just lazy writing.
Later, as she was about to get ready for work, she stood up and noticed the package with the condom on the floor. Then she felt with her hand between her legs and realized that it was full of cum. Oh, yeah, sorry about that, Dad said, and sort of rested his head on his outstretched arm. What an asshole. Let me tell you something about my mom. She never wanted kids. She didn't hate them, but she didn't like them either. And now she stood there on the carpet completely naked, screaming at her boyfriend, with his cum between her legs. She took a morning after pill, thinking it would be fine. The fact that she got pregnant anyway was just, well, she didn't deserve it. And I'm saying that as her son. Over the next few weeks, they stayed up late into the night, talking. Would they ever get married and have kids? They had lived together for almost 3 years, but had never really talked about this because they knew that it was a sensitive subject. Of course, Dad knew that Mom did not want any children, but they met when she was 23. It was only natural that she was more into partying than having kids. But he had always thought that she would change her mind.
No, I'll never, ever want kids,
my mother said.
I would rather shoot myself than being a mom. I said that when we first met, so I don't get why you suddenly act like it's a big deal.
Yeah, sure, but I never thought our relationship would last this long. I mean, I'm just saying that things always change, and I don't get what you have against kids.
They are loud, dirty, silly. They can scratch down some color on paper and say, "It's a dragon." And you just feel like, no, it's not. It's just some random streaks on a piece of paper. And you always have to clean up after them. You know how mad I get every time you leave your shit for me to clean up? And with the kids, it's not like I could say, "Hey, I ain't your fucking mother. Clean up your own shit."
But I would help you, Dad said, and crawled closer to her. I've always wanted kids.
No, you wouldn't,
Mom said and shook her head.
You're like 1,000,000 times more irresponsible than I am, and I'm the kind of girl that spends the rent on booze. We would be really shitty parents, and I just don't think there is any reason to suffer. Guess you were right, Dad said thoughtfully, and crawled up into her lap. We would be shitty parents. Right? I mean, I love you. I love our life. It is crazy and fun and unpredictable, and I don't want to change that. And let's face it, if I get pregnant, I would have to stop drinking, and I ain't gonna stop drinking for some stupid kid. Well, okay, my dad said,
But we can't just continue like this. At some point we have to...
What?
Dunno, just don't get me wrong. I also love our life, but I don't want to live like this forever.
So what do you want to do instead?
It ain't what I want to do instead. I just want our lives to move forward somehow.
Of course our lives can move on,
Mom said.
I just don't want everything to change.
Eventually, everything went back to normal. Perhaps he seemed a bit more thoughtful than before, but they ate kebab on Fridays. The same old gang gathered down at the bar. It had begun to thin out. Most of their friends had either moved out of town or had kids, and they had been replaced by younger talents my mom had found somewhere and that my dad was forced to talk to while she was working at the bar. So, my dad said to a 19-year-old, what do you want to do when you grow up? On the bus back home, as the sun was going up, she had fallen asleep on his shoulder. Dad was carrying her body from the bus stop to the door, and met an old lady in the elevator. We've just had a little bit too much to drink, he said, when he noticed that the old lady was looking at them. Could happen to anyone, but you were probably never young. You were probably born with those saggy tits. She would have laughed and kissed him if she had heard that joke, if you can call it that. Put her in bed, stroke away some hair from her face, walked around the apartment. It was about 9:30, but he did not want to go to bed yet. He sat down in front of the computer, played some games, listened while my mom woke up and vomited in the sink. Then she stumbled into the living room and hung in the doorway.
Aren't you coming to bed? It's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon,
she said with her stinky breath. Yeah, I'm coming, Dad answered and turned off the computer. Once they finally lay in bed, he tried to turn her around so he would not have her vomit breath in his face. When that did not work, he simply crawled over her to the other side. Hey, I saw this ad for an air show. It's for next Sunday, Dad said, like he was a 14-year-old boy trying to ask a girl out. Do you want to go there with me?
On Sunday? No, Saturday is like the busiest night at the bar. I can't miss that.
You don't even work on Saturday.
But I still want to be there.
Come on, you don't have to be there every night. She turned around, so now he had all those rich flavors in his face. Pizza.
Do you want to party here instead?
No, I want to do something else.
Like what?
Like go to that air show on Sunday.
Don't shout,
she said without opening her eyes.
If you want to go to that stupid air show, then you can just go by yourself. I don't want to miss one day of drinking.
Of course, he knew she might say something like that. She'd always been negative to new things. But as soon as she tried them, she was always like, oh, why have I not tried this before? It was like when he put meat in her vegetarian lasagna. She had refused to eat meat when they first met. Said that it was disgusting. But as soon as she tried it,
this is amazing. Can I get the recipe?
And now she loved it. How about this? He said. We can compromise. You can drink while we go to the air show. She opened her eyes. He could see that she didn't want to, but I guess she didn't want to seem impossible. So, the next Sunday, they packed up the car with alcohol and drove through the tunnels to the next valley, where you could see Mount Riona, 25,569 meters high. Mom handed over the bottle. No thank you, Dad said, looking up at the mountain.
You sure?
Uncertain, Mom looked at him. Yeah, I will have some later.
Okay, more alcohol for me,
Mom said, and started the day with a healthy amount of vodka. They parked the car in a field with scorched grass. Mom was already, super drunk, and danced up to the ticket booth.
Hi,
she said, leaning over the counter and breathed her stinky alcohol breath into the guy's face.
2 tickets, please.
An airplane roared by over their heads.
That is so cool. It was a great idea to come here,
my mother said, looking at the airplane.
Hey, is there a discounted price if one's a kid?
She said, looking at the guy again. Yes, children under 13 pay half price. My dad was standing by her side.
Great,
she said.
2 tickets, please. 1 adult and 1 child.
The guy looked confused at my mom and dad.
Just kidding.
My mom reached out and ruffled his hair.
I'm just kidding with you.
They sat up on the grandstand, drinking, and soon developed neck pain from looking at all the airplanes. Dad explained everything that they saw. That is a something, and, that's something very special. It's a hot air balloon, and that is just a fat kid eating cotton candy.
A something,
She said, dreamy, looking up at the sky.
You really know a lot about airplanes.
She opened another beer. When she saw an airplane letting out smoke in the sky, at first she thought it was on fire. But then she realized it was writing something.
Look,
She pointed.
it's writing something.
Yes, that's, My dad snapped his fingers. Wait, I know this. And then he looked like he had the name on the tip of his tongue. I know this. She followed the plane while he tried to think of the name. WILLYMARRYME? Question mark? W and I had blown away by the time the plane was finished writing. I don't know if you've ever seen this thing in movies or in TV series, but there's a cliche that guys wanting to propose hire an airplane to write the proposal in the sky. I mean, you do not see it that often, but every time it happens, the girl that it is meant for always seems to know it's for her. And that leaves you wondering, because there must be thousands of people seeing it. And at least a handful must hope that it is meant for them. And I don't know why my mother would think it was meant for her. Maybe it was just the alcohol, but she threw herself around my dad's shoulders and said,
Yes, of course I'll marry you.
Everyone applauded. That's really brave, someone said. To propose in front of everyone like this? What if she said no? Yeah, that would have been really awkward.
Yeah, really awkward.
Someone chuckled. Dad was like this close to just go with it. But he didn't want to cause a scene in front of all these people. Better to act like nothing and stay married forever. But then he ever so gently freed himself and pointed out ever so gently that the proposal wasn't from him. It wasn't? No, my father said. And then he had this moment of brutal honesty. No, I don't want to get married to you. Why? Mom was completely devastated. Because you do not want to have children, my father said. Funny story. The guy who actually was supposed to propose later proposed in the car. She said yes, and then they both died in a fiery car crash. Their relationship never recovered from what had happened at the air show. I guess it would have been best if they had just went their separate ways. But a 5-year-old relationship could not just end with them walking off in different directions. They had to fight, even if it just meant that they would break up in the end. Well, you are the biggest cunt I've ever met, so it's okay, Dad said, walking around in the apartment, packing up his things, then walked back to the living room, facing Mom standing in the doorway. Could you? She moved half-heartedly, so he had to squeeze out into the living room. I'll probably come back for the rest of this stuff later. Can I trust you won't destroy them? Like these two? He said and picked up his fancy rats. Can I trust you won't burn them?
Aren't you even going to answer my question?
What question?
If you've met someone else.
Of course I haven't met somebody else, he said angrily, like it was a stupid question.
Then I don't understand. Why is it suddenly important to have kids? It just feels like an excuse to break up with me.
No, you're right. That's just an excuse. I'm breaking up with you because you're a filthy alcoholic with absolutely no ambitions. I'm breaking up with you because I feel embarrassed around you.
You feel embarrassed of me?
Mom asked, feeling offended.
Do you realize how many times I wanted to sink through the earth for something you did? You don't even have a job.
Not the same thing. I ain't embarrassed of you for something stupid you did when you were drunk. I'm embarrassed because you are pathetic. You can't go a single day without drinking, and the only reason you can hold a job is because you work in a bar. If you worked at any other place, you would show up drunk for work and get fired.
It's still a job. I'm the one who pays the bills.
And I'm supposed to be grateful for that? The only reason you have any money to pay the bills is 'cause you drink for free at the bar. You would put us on the street if you had to choose between alcohol and the bills. It wasn't the first time Mom punched my dad. Twice he'd deserved it. And once, well, he did dye his hair blonde, so I guess he technically did deserve it.
You're right.
She said calmly.
I do prioritize alcohol over you. I would drink, even if it meant putting you on the street. Just go. Send someone to pick up your stuff.
Although she never showed it, she took the breakup really hard. She showed up drunk for work. Luckily, she worked in a bar, so it was okay, as long as you could stand up. She continued to drink until she passed out. The owner had to carry her into the office and laid her down on the couch. When Mom found out that she was pregnant? Well, at some point she noticed that she missed her period. She was not too worried, though. Her period had always been irregular, but at some point she counted back and realized it had been more than 7 weeks since she had had her last period. She did the pregnancy test in the bar while the others were cleaning.
Alice!
Her boss banged on the door.
If you just made this up to avoid having to clean...
Mom opened the door.
And?
She showed him the pregnancy test.
Holy fuck.
Her boss said, holding it.
Wait, am I holding the part that you peed on?
The question was, of course, whether she could tell Dad or not. Her initial reaction was that they would get back together when he found out, and live happily ever after. So her vagina would stretch out during childbirth. The baby would scream all night. They would fight about whose turn it was. In the end, it would always be her that had to get up. Then she would stand bent over the crib, screaming,
Wah! Wah! You like that, huh? Wah!
and then the baby would scream even more.
Aw, didn't think so. Wah!
She really did not want to have a baby, but she simply didn't know what she was supposed to do with me. Decisions like this always gave her anxiety. She had a habit of making things a lot bigger in her head, until she had blown them out of proportion and gotten into this personal apocalypse. Later on, when she sat in a rock in hell with fire and lava floating around it, the voices in her head would all go like, "Nice job, Alice."
Yeah, nice job, Alice.
And Dad would be all,
Honey, the people behind us are getting restless. What movie do you want to see?
but then Dad called and asked if he could pick up some of his stuff from the apartment. They had not talked since the breakup.
Do you want me to send someone else?
No, it is okay. There's actually something that I need your help to figure out.
Really? What?
I can't tell you on the phone.
Alright, so... I guess I will see you tomorrow?
Yeah, see you tomorrow.
She cleaned the whole apartment for the first time in several months. Printed out a lot of pages about pregnancies from the internet and just happened to spread them out over the table in the living room. Then she ran into the bathroom to practice pregnancy poses in the mirror. First from the front. It was only 2 months into her pregnancy, so you couldn't see anything. But if she bulged out her stomach like she had eaten a large portion of spaghetti bolognese, it actually looked like she was pregnant. The next day, she was extremely nervous. She had not been able to find someone who could take over her shift at the bar, so she simply had decided not to go. She checked the time. He'd promised that he would be here at 3 o'clock. It was already 4:30. She had her favorite t-shirt on. She had been forced to dig it up from the laundry basket, so it was a bit smelly. Then she suddenly bounced up when the doorbell rang. When she opened the door, Dad stood there with his new girlfriend wrapped around his arm.
Hey, Alice.
Dad greeted and embraced Mom with his free arm.
It's so good to see you. Alice, this is Stephanie.
Hi.
Stephanie said and held out her free hand.
You must be the roommate Sam has talked about. It's nice to meet you.
Mom was in shock, but invited them into the living room. Then they stood there without saying anything.
So...
Right,
my mother said.
Your things.
She went to get my dad's things. When she came back, she noticed that he leaned down over the table in the living room, obviously reading the papers she'd put out on the table.
Here you go,
my mother said, with a lump in her throat, and handed him the box.
Thanks.
And then they stood there for a while.
There was something you wanted to talk about?
Oh, no, it's not important. I figured it out by myself.